Hi, everybody. I've been live for 10 seconds. Love it when that happens. Welcome to the Self-Sewn Wardrobe. I am going live kind of impromptu today. I missed my live broadcast earlier this week because I just didn't know what day it was. So anyway, here I am making it up to you. Sorry about that. I'm supposed to go, whoop, threads on me. Supposed to go live every Monday at 2, just so you know. When I remember what day it is, make sure to say hi if you're watching. But what I'm going to talk about right now is thread shredding. Okay, so I love it when I get questions like this in the group. Okay, so here is a picture that Marika posted of her thread shredding. She said, "Hey, what's going on here? I've got this thread shredding, and if you can't see it, it's like what happens. It's like." You know, your thread is made up of a couple plies of fiber, right? It's 2 ply, it's 3 ply. And it's like one of them gets shredded and kind of winds up around the rest of the filament, around the rest of the fiber. And so it's like you're still sewing, but you're only sewing a part of the thread, and the rest of the thread is like wrapped around the other thread, okay? And if this hasn't happened to you before, then great. But what can be going on here is... Well, what is going on here is the thread has been damaged somewhere, okay? But what you need to realize is that even though this break is coming up and it's above that thread guide and it's sort of up, it can even look like it's up into your take-up lever, that's probably not where the problem is. If your thread has broken, you know, up top and it just is completely out of your, needle after a few stitches, then you might have a burr up in the take-up lever area or kind of in that upper area of your machine. But if it's doing like it's doing in this picture that Marika shows us, then you probably have a burr somewhere on your bobbin case, or your needle is not the correct needle for the project. Oh, I meant to. Hold on. Let's see what Fred wrote my little script for me. She responded to this. She responded to this photo with all of these reasons this might be happening since Marika mentioned it. And I said, thanks for writing my script. Fred says, needle's not right for the project. Needle has damage, such as a mild bend or burr. Thread trash in bobbin area. Bobbin not inserted correctly. Bobbin tension messed up when I was fiddling with the removable case. Maybe. And a thread too old or flimsy for the project. Unknown reasons that I shooed the damn cat away from my sewing machine. Okay, so... yeah, there is not just one answer to this question, but the thread's getting damaged somewhere, and I want you to consider that even though it looks like it's damaged up above the needle, that the problem could be down below. So, I like to use my computer sometimes for the lives because I get to share photos like that, but it's not as good for getting into tight areas like the sewing machine, so I am going to take this off, though. And then Marika, after a few comments, mentioned that she'd had a bit of a traumatic event with her sewing machine in, I think, like the previous week or so. So anyway, I just took the bobbin case out of my sewing machine that's right next to me. And this bobbin case, here, I'll hold it up like against my skin. This bobbin case needs to be smooth, okay, in this area. I know it's like a black bobbin case and the lighting here isn't super wonderful. But if you see on this area around the hook like a big snaggy, the plastic has been bent and it, looks like maybe a needle's gone through it or something, you can take a little bit of very fine sandpaper and smooth that, okay? So, something to keep in mind is that when you sew, your thread goes through the fabric a number of times before it's laid down in a stitch, okay? So you're not just, if you think of it, machine sewing is not like hand sewing in many ways, but if you think of hand sewing, how your thread gets worked through the fabric several times before it actually lays down, it's a little like that on sewing machine sewing too. So I see Marika has her machine like open to show us that, to show us how some of the plies are like winding up around that thread. But don't think that necessarily the problem is up there. The other thing is there is a thread guide, not on every sewing machine, but on a lot of sewing machines. There's this little spring above the needle area, and I did a live broadcast about this. I'll try to put it in the announcements for you, Marika, but it's right above the needle. There is a spring, okay, sometimes. And sometimes when you loosen the needle screw too much on your sewing machine, that's one reason it can happen. If that spring gets moved underneath, another thread guide needs to be put on top. So that is something to check as well. But just go through your whole thread path. Now, with the proper needle and proper needle for the fabric, proper needle for the thread, if your needle's too small, it can snag your thread or cause more stress on your thread, cause one of those threads to, one of the plies, one of the fibers in the thread to snap and then wind up around there. So you need the needle to be large enough, and then you need it to be appropriate so that your needle protects the thread as it goes through the fabric. So I'm not sure what you were sewing on, Marika. Hey, Fred. I already mentioned you. You missed your shout out. The needle is not just something that pierces the fabric. It is a thread delivery system. Okay, so the size of the needle and the size of the eye, it changes depending on what system you're working with. If you're working with, like, you get a metallic needle, and a metallic needle has a larger eye. It's a taller eye. And if you get a size 100 metallic needle, it's going to be bigger than a size 70 metallic needle. So you got to kind of not only think about the size, but what fabric you're working with and what thread you're working with. So think about all of those things as you move forward, and do use the proper thread. And why I said I don't know what fabric you were working on, I've had this happen on really dense knits before. The type of thread is important too, so using a high quality thread. But if you've used this brand of thread or this specific spool of thread with no problem in the past, and then all of a sudden this is happening, it's probably one of these other reasons. And Marika said that she had bent a needle. I think that's what she said in the previous week. So a hunch I have is that she's going to take that bobbin case out, and she's going to find a burr maybe in that bobbin casing. And if she has a plastic bobbin case, it's pretty easy to file it down smooth. So keep that in mind, Marika. But yeah, I think one concept here, it might not be new to you, but I think it is new to a lot of people, is that your thread travels through the fabric a few times before it's laid down. So that's one reason to use that right side. Oh, jegging knit Gutermann thread. Jegging knit, that stuff, I mean, it can be a little tricky. It can have maybe a lot of spandex in it, okay? So if it has a lot of spandex in it, a lot of spandex, lycra, elastane, whatever you call it, if it has a lot of rubberized fiber, that thread goes down in there, and maybe the needle isn't able to encase the thread as well as it could, or it's getting snagged, or there's drag on it, maybe it is putting a little stress on there if it's not a burr in your bobbin case. So that is a possibility. I've had this, I don't know if I've had this exact problem, but stitch skipping on some of our neoprene fabrics or things like that is something that I've experienced. Really had to make sure that I was using a needle that would accommodate all the stress that was being put on the thread as it was going through the fabric. So anyway, think about that as you are moving forward. Check your thread guides. Make sure that's good. I will try and find that live broadcast about the thread spring. If you didn't tune into that when I did that a few weeks ago, that's something that can cause the, that shredding. So once again, Marika submitted this picture. She's got that kind of where the one ply of the thread comes up and winds around the rest of it. It's like a third or a half or 2/3 of your thread has been shredded. So you're sewing with a little bit of thread, but the rest of it is wound up around the remaining filament. Fred says, last time I worked on a jegging knit, the one from Loiseau, I needed a Microtex. My jersey needles wouldn't do it. Oh yeah. So there are technically you can use whatever needle you want on a knit, but there are 3 main options for knit needles, and sometimes a microtext is it. Marika says, after taking out the bobbin case and smoothing that one spot, it works now. Woo! So it's so lovely when you can fix the problem yourself, and it's, you know, even if it was a mistake that you made, I can't remember the name of the person who posted in the group, but they had unregulated top tension and it just kind of misthreaded the machine, and they were like, oh, I'm so glad it was me. And I was like, yeah, you know, it's really cheap when the problem is something that you can fix, or even better when it's just like something you did wrong and you can fix it. So yeah, Marika, you're gonna you file down that burr on your bobbin case, and it's working great. And for all of you out there, you might wonder if you check out your bobbin case, you know, be very careful, be very gentle, and there is a limit, of course, to how much you should file down your bobbin case. So, you know, if it's absolutely terribly chewed up, maybe you need a new one. If it's just one or two small spots, it can probably be just smoothed over with a file. And it's just amazing that, you know, one of those little burrs or one of those little holes poked by a needle, so it's shredding Marika's thread, but sometimes I've heard it cause the machine to make just a terrible noise, like a really, you know, loud clanking sound, something that can happen when you miss your take-up lever. And we're just not always trained to know the cause and effect, or like what the symptoms mean when we're doing stuff with our machine. And then I will just show you, Marika, I didn't ask your permission, but I'm assuming that you would allow me to put up a picture of your kitty. Look at it, it's so cute. All right. I hope this makes up for the Zoom Live broadcast that I missed earlier this week. I do apologize for that, but like I said, I was just humming along, doing work, and I was like, it is Monday. And one of our members said that every day is Blur's Day. I liked that. All right, everybody, have a lovely weekend. I'll see you again on Monday at 2 o'clock. I'm putting my phone, okay? I'll make it so I get like 16 alerts about it, okay? All right, everybody, thanks for watching. Have a good day. So long and so happy.